welcome sign on I-25, paint chips still standing proud. Ranch hands lean on rustic gates, reading weather in the clouds. Antelope on the edges, coal dust on our jeans. Oryx blanking on the rim like a string of prairie dreams. Wyoming wind, you shove those semis sideways on the line, make a 20-foot wall of white in a single night. Drag those tumbleweeds till they're stacked up tight on the old barbed wire. Carry smoke from a branding fire. You steal my hat, you sting my skin, but I was raised by that Wyoming wind. Red dirt stuck in busted boots, pickup rattling down 14. Feedlot steam in the dim sunrise, snow geese cutting clean. L-tracks in the timber, sagebrush oceans roll. We pull our hoods tight at the pump, the gust cuts through the soul. You push our trash clear to Nebraska, strip a billboard to the nails, slam a screen door off its hinges, shake the grain out of the rails. You whistle through those coal cars, howl across the powder rim. Every fence line, every windburn grin, got carved by you again. Wyoming wind, you shove those semis sideways on the line, make it 20-foot wall of white in a single night. Drag those tumbleweeds till they're strings of tight on the old barbed wire. Carry smoke from a branding fire. You steal my hat, you sting my skin, but I was raised by that Wyoming wind. Stuck in busted boots, pick up rattling around 14. Feedlot steam in the dim sunrise, snow geese cutting clean. L-tracks in the timber, sagebrush oceans roll. We pull our hoods tight at the pump, the gust cuts through the song. Sun just clocked out on the fence line, boots kick dust off a long week's try. Hayfield shimmer in the porch.
This is Beyond the Fence Line with Joseph Kibler. No script, no spin, no permission needed. Just honest commentary, hard truth, and real conversations that most people won't touch. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs people willing to step outside the narrative and think for themselves. So if you're ready to stop being told what to think and start asking better questions, you're in the right place. Let's go.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Joseph Kibler Beyond the Fence Line. Hope you guys are doing well. Honest commentary, hard truth, and real conversations. And we're continuing our county by county review of candidates coming up. What are they? Are they Republicans? Are they Democrats? Are they woke? Are they right? Are they left? Are they middle? Are they center? Are they independent? Are they unaffiliated? What's going on? But look at this. So, Natrona County. What have you done? We're going to have a talk today, Natrona. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a talk today about who you've elected and why. I just sort of wonder sometimes as I'm looking through some of these candidates going, man, like, why don't you just run? Be true to yourself. Run as a Democrat. Be true to yourself. Don't run as a Republican. Don't start your campaign with a lie. If you're independent, go independent. If you want to be unaffiliated, do that. But if you're going to run as a Republican, your votes, the way you act, the way you behave, ought to at least reflect it in some way. Now, granted, folks, as you know, I am not a Republican. I left the major parties. I believe in being honest with myself, honest with the people, and I know a lot of you struggling with political identity. I was just willing to do something about it. I was willing to talk about it. I was willing to move. I was willing to change. And that's the whole point, right, you guys? Being honest with ourselves. So, anyways, now before we get started, I have to say this every single day I do this. I'm going to say this up front. Today's show is not about personal attacks. It's not about dragging people through the mud. It's not about gossip, rumors, Facebook drama, or pretending that every elected official we disagree with is suddenly a villain. Okay, it's not what this is about. Like a villain in a low-budget political western. Although, let's be honest for a minute, folks. Wyoming politics sometimes feels like a low-budget western. The difference is, in the old westerns, at least somebody eventually had the courage to ride into town and deal with the problem. And, well, here I am. I'm not saying that I'm that guy, all that in a ball of wax or what have you. But here we are. So today, we're going to talk about Natrona and Carbon Counties. We're going to talk about mostly legislative candidates. Now, I don't even know, by the way, if all of these people have expressed their interest in running again, but we're going to talk about them nonetheless because they've got some really, really nice records for us to talk about it. But what is the title of today's show? Natrona, what have you done? Candidates, records, and receipts. Yeah, I know. The title has a little seasoning on it. I get it. But there's a point to it, and boy, do we need to talk. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen like I have every day this week, and we're going to start looking at candidates. Where is the right screen, you guys? Well, that's not the right screen. Hold on just a second. I got to make sure I've got my screen here that I need to share. It was here. Oh, there we go. All right, we got it. Okay, cool. So what are we going to do today? You know what? I'll make this so you guys could really see this really good. There you go. All right. So here we are talking about candidates. We're going to start with Natrona County. And first up, we're going to talk about Mr. Jim Anderson. Let me get up here to the top. So you guys just, this is the site that I'm sharing. So I've got, as you can see on this, I've got all kinds of sites that I use for my research. And looking at this and looking at candidates, looking at their voting records and stuff like this, which is what this is about. By the way, I want to mention this again. This isn't how I feel about these folks, all right? I mean, I actually like some of these folks. I've met some of them. I've spoken to some of them at length. That's not what this is about. This is about how do you vote? What do you do? What do you believe? And what do you say? And do those things actually line up? And I think it's a great question for us to ask. I'm going to see if I can do something different here. There we go. I actually like that. That actually lays out pretty nice. So today we're talking about Natrona and Carbon County legislators, starting with Mr. Jim Anderson. By the way, Mr. Jim Anderson. Oh, what happened there? I must have actually clicked on something. All right. So this is the Freedom Index, guys. This is just simply how someone votes Constitution. Now, Jim has a long record, or a longer record than a lot of legislators, so we can look at him and go, okay, is he constitutional or not? Um, looks like he didn't vote in favor of proof of life for the preborn, and maybe he had his reasons for that. Maybe he had principles for that. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't looked deep enough into Jim to know if he's pro-life. I guess we could take a look at that real quick if we want to. We could go to the, let's see, Jim. He's Senate. So let's see. Let's go check out the Heartbeat Act real quick here, guys. We'll take a quick look, and we'll see what Jim voted on the Heartbeat Act. And we'll take a look. Now, of course, we know in a lot of the cases this was symbolic. It is now back into. All right, looks like Mr. Jim did vote in favor of that, so that's really really good. Anyways, I digress. I got distracted. By the way, guys, I don't just sit here and use YO Rhino to have this conversation. I actually have a lot of data-driven sites that actually provide me with real data for folks and what's going on. Yeah, I look at YO Rhino too, but honestly, I try to keep the bias out of this conversation. I mean, obviously, I'm a conservative. Obviously, I'm a Christian, all of that. But really, this is more about factual information I want to provide to you guys. So anyway, Mr. Jim Anderson is a senator, right? So I need to get over here to the Senate on evidence-based Wyoming and see where this ends up here. Mr. Jim Anderson. All right, see right down here at the bottom in evidence-based Wyoming on the liberal scale. It is my opinion, whether it matters to you or not, that if you fall in this category here, very liberal, in the Wyoming House or Senate, you really ought to be true to yourself and run as a Democrat. You just should. I mean, just be honest about it. It's okay. By the way, I don't have a problem with that. I think the problem that I've got is the amount of perhaps dishonesty involved in this, where you put an R after your name, but you're not a Republican. I mean, let's just face it, you're not. Now, of course, you guys know me. I'm not a big fan of the major parties. Not a big fan of parties in general, if I'm being honest. I think they don't serve the people. And someone told me yesterday they serve a purpose, Joseph, blah, 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 blah. So, and they do. Perhaps they do. But for me, I think we need to look beyond the parties. I think it's really important to look beyond the parties. So with that, Mr. Jim Anderson, he is in, what is he? Senate. He's Senate District number 28. Folks, who's going to run there? We need someone to run there. Someone who, be an independent, be an unaffiliated candidate. Do something. Let's send Mr. Jim Anderson off to greener pastures, if you will, from Congress. Now, I've noticed this trend among a lot of these folks where their constitutional and conservative score 4 or 5 years ago was quite a bit higher than it is now. And I don't know what happened, but it seems like something happened where a whole bunch of folks just decided, the Constitution didn't matter anymore, and fighting for liberty and things like that didn't really matter anymore. I just really don't know what happened back then, but it did. I've noticed this trend among a lot of our legislators where they've gone leaning in. I mean, a little bit more to the left, a little bit more liberal, stuff like that. So, anyways, Jim. Appreciate that you've got at least a freedom score is 58. That's higher than a lot of your counterparts in the House and the Senate. But would love to see us get a great conservative candidate in that Senate seat. Let's now go over. We're going to go over to some. Actually, you know what? Do we have? We actually have a couple more senators here in Natrona County. So let's take a look at Bill Landon and Charles Scott. Get over here real quick to Wyoming legislators. All right, Mr. Landon. Did I say that right? Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. All right, let's get down here. By the way, congratulations, Natrona County. You've got the only candidate on Freedom Index that gets a 0. So we'll talk about Miss Julie Jarvis here in a little while. 0 on the Constitution. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? Okay, what was I doing? Mr. Bill Landon. Again, so, these guys up in Natrona County, Bill and Jim, and maybe even Mr. Charles Scott, let's take a look. They have a much higher freedom score than a lot of their counterparts do as far as it comes to the U.S. Constitution. Now, for me personally, still not high enough. I want to see you 70. I'm happy with 70. I'm happy with what we get. I'm happy with 70% or better, to be honest. But that's me personally. Obviously, some of you may have different thresholds. That just happens to be mine. But let's go ahead and take a look here at where they fall. By the way, I like evidence-based Wyoming, folks, and I also do like YO Action. It's really important in YO Action to take a look at their voting blocks. I think that's really important when we look at the voting blocks, how they vote. That kind of dictates, really where their core beliefs end up being. And as you can see, I mean, even here in the Senate, you've got some different voting blocks, but understanding where these folks vote is really important. In fact, I'll go ahead. I'm going to post this in the comments right now for those of you that might be interested in taking a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the comments. So let's go back over here. So these guys, they're in the 50s on their Constitution score. So they vote. But you'll notice, look, it's the same trend here where in this session, all these guys are in the 80s, and then something happened here, and maybe this is protest voting against the Freedom Caucus, right? Because that's all we talk about anymore in Wyoming politics is the Freedom Caucus. Maybe they protest voting. Maybe that's part of what's going on here. But let's also take a look at where they fall here on evidence-based Wyoming, Mr. Scott and Mr. Landon. So here you go. Mr. Landon, again, down here in this bottom category, very liberal. Again, run as a Democrat. I have no problem with that. You know what? And represent your constituents. You know what? If you've got a Democrat district and they elect you as a Democrat, stay true to yourself. I mean, not that I agree with that, but at least you're being honest. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is just be honest. Okay, so Mr. Charles Scott up here on evidence-based Wyoming, number 20 in the Senate out of, 31 or 32 that are in there? Yep, 31. And I would argue that some of these folks even might consider, maybe consider just look in the mirror, see if you're doing the right thing. That's all I'm asking. This Nethercott is actually my representative up here in my district, Senate District number 4. So there you go. I mean, so then you can kind of go on here, on YO Action voting blocks and kind of see where do these folks vote, and make a decision on that. Make a clear decision on that. So those are our 3 senators: Jim Anderson, Bill Layden, and Charles Scott. All who have room for improvement, certainly from a conservative standpoint, if they're running as Republicans, conservatives, could use some improvement there on their constitutional score. Again, looks like they were more constitutional 4 or 5 years ago, and then have gone more and more liberal as their political careers. But I mean, I guess that kind of is what we see happening to a lot of people in politics, huh? That's kind of happening here. So today, I'm not going to talk about all the sites that I use, but I use Freedom Index. I use Evidence-Based Wyoming. I use YO Action. I use YVote. I use Wild Rhino. Not a lot, by the way, you guys. I know it's seen as very partisan. In a lot of ways it is. But it still has a measure of usefulness, I guess you could say, when it comes to, and you'll notice that a lot of these folks I'm talking about today on Wild Rhino get relatively low scores when it comes to Wild Rhino. But again, I don't put all my stake in that, really. I also use the Wyoming legislative websites, the Wyoming legislature website, to look at this, to look at their votes and to understand where they're coming from. So with that, let's go over now to the House. We'll start with Elisa Campbell. So let's get over here to Freedom Index and take a look. All right. So she's kind of low on the constitutional score there. We don't have a lot of data on her. So, by the way, a lot of these folks, they didn't vote. They didn't cast votes on some of these constitutional things. But also, we may not have enough data to make a complete, cast the baby out with the bathwater. But we can see some of the data from the last 2 years and kind of understand where they fall in the political spectrum. So Elisa Campbell, okay, we're getting down here still. Okay, she's right here at the bottom of the liberal category in the House here on Evidence-Based Wyoming. Again, these folks here, I encourage you, be honest, be true to yourself. Run as a Democrat. Okay? Just do it. Just be honest. Be honest with your constituents as well. Just encourage you to do that. So Lisa Campbell, this is a great House District number 56. Who do we have who's going to run as a conservative, an independent, or an unaffiliated candidate up there in House District 56 that we can go ahead and try to, let's send Lisa to greener pastures. Let's send her to her next, stage in life, and get some more conservatives there in the House. Next person, Steve Harshman. I think Steve is right here with Elisa coming out of Natrona County as far as his political leanings, his record. And of course, you guys could click on it. And Steve's got a great big long record that you could take a look at, and you can kind of see where he falls when it comes to, isn't that progressive or liberal caucus, right? And he's been in there a long time. These are great candidates that we should really look at. I'm guessing we're going to have a really good, probably a pretty good look at who he is from a constitutional standpoint as well. So interesting. Look at that same voting block I've mentioned before, and this time it's over in the House, where he was a bit more constitutional, but then, wow, really went a lot less constitutional as time went on, giving him a constitutional score of 43. And you might say, Joseph, well, these sites, they cherry pick, blah, blah, blah. To an extent, they may do that. But if you look across all of these different sites, you can go ahead and get a pretty good idea where Steve stands on things. Who's his voting block? What's his voting block? So let's see if we can find his voting block real quick here on YO Action. Oh, where are you? So there he is here. So this voting block right here, folks, a lot of these folks are just, when you start digging in, I think we're going to be looking at, no, we're not going to be looking at Bob Davis today. Oh, yeah, we will. Actually, at a Carbon County. Carbon County's on the list today, Natrona and Carbon County. So this voting block here on YO Action, these 13 folks agree with each other 86% of the time. Look, you've got Julie Jarvis in there. We'll be talking about her in a minute. Lee Filer, J.D. Williams, Landon Brown. All these folks here, I would argue. Let's ask this question. They're the progressive caucus in the Republican Party. Okay, I guess we can accept that. But let's be honest. How do they really truly align? And you can use all of these sites and sort of gain a picture of, where do these people stand when it comes to the Constitution? Where do they stand when it comes to your personal freedoms? And stuff like that. So it's really important. Next one up, Julie Jarvis. That's been kind of I'm sure you guys have heard her name. She's gained a reputation for herself in the House. And she's also, she is the only representative that this last season earned a 0 on her Freedom Index. So congratulations, I guess, are in order for that. And what that is. But if we go, we'll find her down here right above all of our Democrats here. And so there you go. And as I said earlier, folks, if you're in Evidence-Based Wyoming and you're in this category, do yourself a favor. Run as a Democrat for who you really are, and be honest with your voters. Be honest with your voters about who you are and what you're doing. Not a hard ask, but there you go. So obviously, we'd love to see us get a conservative candidate out there in House District 57 in Natrona County to run with Julie Jarvis, and hopefully, maybe in the primary, let's go ahead and send her to, again, her next chapter in life. Okay, so there you go. That's Julie Jarvis. Not a lot hidden there, by the way, right? If you look across these websites, you see pretty clear. Okay, we see who Julie is. I'm okay with that. I don't agree with her, but she could be true to herself, be true to her constituents, and I'm fine with that. All right, next candidate out, J.R. Riggins. Let's take a look at what J.R. Riggins has going on here. He's out of House District 59. And let's see if I know my alphabet. R, P, Q, R. There you are. Okay, Mr. Justin Riggins. Again, so for some of these, I want to be clear, on some of these folks where we don't have a ton of data, like, maybe we have to wait and see. But we can't tell if we look across all of the websites. So not just, one website, but we look across all the websites. We look at their voting record. We can get a sense of where they're at. But, maybe one or two sessions is, I don't think they've actually put up the 2026 scorecards yet either. So that would be interesting to see how this affects this. I would like to see that happen. But anyway, let's look at evidence-based Wyoming. So he actually, Mr. JR does fall into this right above the moderate category there. So he might be one of those that we're not chasing after too hard to replace necessarily. I'm sure if I were to look, he's probably pro-life. If I go look over here at the House bill and take a look here, Riggins. Yeah, I mean, he's voted pro-life, stuff like that. But I want more from my representatives than pro-life. I want them to vote the Constitution. Now, we didn't get a lot of information on him because it looks like he missed a bunch of votes in 25, and we don't have 26's data yet on him. But there you are. So this one might be a toss-up. Conservatives might have to, look at their district, see who in District 59 is running, and see what, maybe a toss-up there with Mr. J.R. Riggins. I don't really know. The next one is Art Weshut. So let's look at Art Weshut real quick, and we'll take a look here. Decent constitutional score. Again, you'll notice this trend, guys. And I wonder, and I'm going to ask the question even with Art too. Is this people pushing back to not look like their Freedom Caucus? I mean, is this why they were so constitutional in previous years? And then all of a sudden they've just pushed back because they don't want to look like they're a part of the caucus or whatever, because that's the number one thing around the water cooler in Wyoming, I guess you could say. I don't really know. I think it'd be interesting to have a conversation and say, Art, what happened? What happened when it came to the Constitution, buddy? Like, did we just decide that we're not, following the Constitution anymore? I don't know. House District 36. So his trending, I think we probably, would love to see a great conservative candidate run up there in House District 36 in Natrona. Let's see where he falls in the evidence-based Wyoming. And by the way, yes, you guys, I focus on kind of these two sites in the show, but I do use all of these sites to kind of figure out where people are, when it comes to, their political alignment, their voting blocks, stuff like this. Mr. Riggins, where are you at? Where's your voting block to? Let's take a look here. You know what? I probably missed it. No, not there. Not there. Not there. Mr. Riggins, who do you vote with? For some reason, I am not. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is his voting block. So he does consider himself kind of in there in that voting block, but let's see where he falls here on evidence-based Wyoming as well. Mr. Riggins, I probably missed you. Yeah, for some reason, I am missing. So he may be in that upper voting block. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's right here. Wait, who am I doing right now? Did I just confuse myself? No, we're on Art. We're talking about Art right now. I'm not talking about Mr. Riggins. I got my wires crossed there. All right, so Art votes with these folks quite a bit. Let's see where else he votes, if he has any of these other blocks here. So he does vote here with this conservative block a little bit here, 86, or they agree 86% of the time. Let's see where he falls in this moderate category. So again, like J.R. Riggins, Art, this might be a toss-up. Is he conservative enough? Or, do we want more out of that House District 36 in Natrona County? We might. So that's consideration on that. Let's hop over. We're going to hop over now to Carbon County. This is going to also cross over into Sweetwater a little bit because these representatives do kind of cross. They do go into those two counties. So let's talk about the lone senator, I guess, in Carbon and Sweetwater County, Mr. Larry Hicks. I don't know if he's the lone senator. I actually shouldn't say that because I'm actually only talking about these seats that we should look at, replacing and putting some good conservative candidates in. So let's look at that Mr. Larry Hicks real quick here. And we will start out with the Freedom Index. I know, scrolling, right, you guys? There we go. So again, Larry Hicks' Freedom Score, Index Score, actually aligns with a lot of those folks in the Freedom Caucus from a constitutional standpoint. He's got a pretty long, consistent record of being 67% Constitution. I can almost live with that from a constitutional standpoint. If you look here, actually, it's kind of interesting. A lot of your Freedom Caucus members, or adjacent, I guess you could say, because they don't ascribe, are at that 67 mark as well when it comes to their index or their constitutional. And of course, he's got a few years to show that too. But let's take a look and see from the Senate standpoint on evidence-based Wyoming kind of where he falls on this list as well. And he does fall right between that moderate and liberal sort of standpoint. Again, depending on what you want, what you're looking for, here you might go, okay, yeah, this is a toss-up. This is one we might be able to live with. Maybe not. Maybe not. He's going to be pro-life, but we want more than that, right, folks? But let's take a look here and kind of see what caucus he falls into. So he's got a nice, big, long record here, and he's kept a pretty consistent conservative score. So, Mr. Larry Hicks, you might get a pass this time. I don't know, but it could be a mixed bag there. So that's Mr. Larry Hicks. Let's go over to the two House candidates we want to talk about, Mr. Bob Davis and Pam Thriver, Thrayer, they're in Carbon County and Sweetwater County, House District 47 and 15 for Carbon County and Sweetwater County. So let's take a look at Mr. Bob Davis. So Mr. Bob Davis, let's get up here. A, B, C, D. I promise I do know my alphabet here. Okay, we got a lot of C's there. Mr. Bob Davis. Okay, so he's running the Constitution. Again, you'll notice this, guys. Again, this same trend where they voted Constitution. But something happened. People are pushing back. I don't know what's going on there. But let's take a look at Bob Davis here. Now, Bob Davis, if I remember right, ends up, no. Okay, see, he's right here in the liberal, pretty towards the bottom of sort of that liberal caucus there. Or that progressive caucus, where he was moderate, and now he's kind of gone a little bit more liberal on that. And it looks like he agreed with this party about 56% of the time. Probably not enough. Bob Davis, we probably need someone in House District 47, be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more constitutional. And so I'd love to see someone run up at that district as well. And the last candidate we're going to review out of Carbon County, Sweetwater is Pam Thrier. Thrier? I think I said that right. Hopefully I said that right. I've been known to butcher names, so please forgive me for that. Get my screen here to work. Yes, and again, I do lean kind of heavily into these two sites for the show, but I do use all of the sites for kind of figuring things out. So she gets us a constitutional score of 60. We don't have a lot of data here on the Constitution, the Freedom Index for her. Let's go ahead and hop over here to, and by the way, evidence-based Wyoming, kind of similar to Wyo Action, does have like other positions and like kind of fun graphs that you could take a look at to figure out where people do fall on things. So anyway, with that, let's go ahead and take a look at Pam real quick and see where she's at on evidence-based Wyoming. I must have missed her. See how I am? There she is. So again, sort of in that lower liberal category here, where maybe there's consideration there. Again, she's probably pro-life, if I remember right. I gotta go back over here to the House vote here real quick. House vote there. Looks like there was a bunch of people excused that final vote as well. But she is, voting that pro-life. I think what's important. But again, I want more from that. So with her, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. We can see where she votes as well. Let's see, is she in there? I don't see her in there. So here's her voting block. So that might be, when you consider some of these folks that are in this voting block, might be a good idea to find a more conservative candidate in for her. By the way, sometimes when you guys are on this site, by the way, they can be in a couple of voting blocks. So she's also in this voting block as well. Again, I am talking about most of these folks in this voting block. So she probably would be one of those folks. House District 15, Carbon and Sweetwater counties. Well, let's get a great conservative candidate to run out there, you guys. So with that, I'm going to wrap it. So it's Friday. Oh, man. What a week. I'm going to post this information for a lot of these candidates over the weekend, throughout the day today, so you guys can make educated decisions. Or so you can decide to run in these districts because you're like, you know what? I think we could use better representation in these districts. With that, you guys have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you Monday. Bye. Monday, I'm probably going to find a topic to talk about. We're going to take a break from our county tour. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, we'll probably do some more county tour stuff. No, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe we'll do county tour stuff. But maybe I'll end cap the week next week with some topics. We'll kind of just shoot the breeze on what's going on in Wyoming, election, stuff like that. God bless you guys. I'm going to send you out with Raised on Friday nights because, hey, it's Friday. And so I like to always close the week out with this song because it's kind of fun. Take care. God bless you guys. Have a safe weekend.
Sun just clocked out on the fence line. Boots kick dust off a long week's try. Hayfield shimmer in the porch like low. Grams cracks a joke, says it's our time. Cooler in the bed of that old Ford dog, riding shotgun like he runs this world. County road hums while the day unwinds, chasing that sunset red as a stop sign. All that sweat on Monday, Tuesday turns to stories when it turns dark. We've been counting down the long days to light up this one spark. We were raised on Friday nights where the small town comes alive. Campfires popping, someone's tailgate dropping, singing under big skylights. From the bleachers at the home field game to jumping in the creek by the bridge at midnight. Yeah, we worked this land from dawn till light, but we were raised on Friday nights. Parking lot packed at the high school, half the town leaning on the chain link fence. Marching band echoes through the cool air. First kiss hiding in the old school bench. Later on out by Miller's pasture, pickup circle, little red plastic cups. Two steps spinning in the gravel dust. Friends talk big like they'll all catch up. Sweaty shirts and sunburned necklines turn to flannels in the dark. Every fence post, every stop sign knows the beating of this heart. That old windmill still squeaks in time to every cheer when the home team's driving. Every laugh round a fire at night. Every one more lap down that dirt road winding. We ain't rich, but man, we're alright. Got a sky full of stars, got a long singing under big skylights. We would